Hi everyone, it's Kendra from My Insanity, and I couldn't help but feel very sorry for those of you who were unable to attend the SNAP conference last year. It was an amazing event. It will be going on again next April. In fact, tickets go on sale tomorrow, so you better mark your calendar, set your alarm, and jump on it before they sell out. But last year I was fortunate enough to be part of a panel discussing party planning on a budget, featuring the fabulous Sarah from Confetti Sunshine and Michelle from Maddie Cake Muse. I think it's Maddie Cakes Muse, and myself. And it was such a fun panel. We learned so much from each other, and I'd like to share my portion of it with you today. I'm sorry that I don't have Sarah's and Michelle's parts. They were fabulous, so I encourage you to check out their sites and see what tips they had to offer. Sarah's really great at designing color schemes and the look and feel of a party. Michelle is a professional party planner, and she took a lot of the tips that the pros use in their large-scale parties and taught you kind of how to bring them down and make them reasonable and realistic to do on your own party. Mine is a collection of the crazy things I've learned over the years with planning my parties. And so let's jump right on in. This is my PowerPoint presentation from SNAP Conference 2012, Party Planning on a Budget. Our theme for the event was "It doesn't have to cause a mint to cause excitement." So you can see the favor if you go to the blog post where I'm posting this on my website, myinsanity.com. You'll see the cute party favors we handed out to reinforce this idea. So the first thing I wanted to address was the concept of what is a budget, and recognize that that may be different for everybody. I am known, at least I think, that I'm one of the cheapest people out there, especially when it comes to throwing parties. So you can imagine my surprise when one day I came across this pin on Pinterest of the Rapunzel party. This is the cake I made for my daughter's Rapunzel party, and the whole party that we put together. And someone had commented as they pinned it, "Maybe when we are rich, we can have a party like this for our girls." Well, I wanted to say, wait, go read my blog. You don't have to be rich. This was not a party that cost a lot of money. It was a lot of work, and so if you're trying to look for how to throw a party without spending a lot of time or energy, then this is probably not the right presentation for you, because I am not very good at that. I do put a lot of time and effort into my parties, but I am usually able to pull them off. Someone asked in the presentation about what I mean by cheap, and I would say my top price is around $200, but we usually try and go a lot less than that, maybe anywhere from $50 to $200, depending on how many people are coming, how much food we serve. The food is kind of the clincher there. There's not always as much you can do to save money on food, and so I really try not to go above that, and often a lot less than that if possible. So we're not talking about tons of money, but I wanted to see what other people are spending on parties, and so I got online and looked at a forum. This is the cafemom.com forum, and just read some of what some women had said about what they're spending on parties. And you can see that we have some people spending $1,500 for a first birthday, some people spending $15,000 on a first birthday, $500 somebody said, $1,000 per party. These people are planning on spending $15,000 for sweet 16s and graduations. So a lot of people are spending a lot of money. There were people on the forum that, by the way, I blocked out the names to protect the innocent and the not so innocent, but there were people on the forum that were saying they only spent like $50, but most of those were also saying that, oh, we're just going to grandma's house and eating cake. So they weren't doing much of anything. So I guess it's my hope that I can give you a few ideas about how to create something that's special and memorable without putting out the big bucks. So here are some of my tips. My first one is plan way ahead. Now, this isn't always realistic and possible, but the further in advance that you have an idea for what the party's going to be, the sooner you can start looking for sales, just have it in the back of your mind when you're at the dollar store or when you're doing some online shopping or whatever. Or surfing Pinterest, you can be marking things that are going to help you put this party together. And the better your vision for what you want to do, it will make it more more clear what things are worth splurging on and what things you really want to cut back and save money on. I'm trying to plan a fair party for my daughter, and I'm considering splurging on renting a Ferris wheel. It's just a small kiddie one. It'd be about the same as renting a bounce house, and that's usually something I don't ever do. I don't spend money on something like that. But if I can make everything else really inexpensive, and if I can find a deal or work a connection or use the blog or something, I may go ahead and do that, because that would really set the mood and be the highlight of the party, and I wouldn't need to spend a lot of money on other things. So, I'm not saying don't ever spend money or don't ever go big, but know what things are worth spending the money on. Otherwise, everything will seem like it's worth spending money on, and then there won't be any money left to spend. So, and like I said, you can take advantage of the sales and seasonal items as they come. All right, so here's my most dramatic example of planning way far in advance. Remember, I gave this talk in April. Now it's September, and we're getting ready right now to have my son's party. He's turning 8 this year and getting baptized in our church, and so his birthday's a little different this year. So I knew we weren't going to do a big friend party this year, but I know that for 2013, my plan is to throw him a mad science party, because for several years now, you ask him what he wants to be when he grows up, and he said a mad scientist. He's going to major in mad science so he can be a mad scientist when he grows up. So I think a science party will be perfect for him and his friends, even in a year or so. I don't think that that's something that he's going to outgrow. It's possible, but he's loved science forever, and I think he's still going to love that party even a year from now. And even if he doesn't, it's the kind of thing that could be fun to adapt for Halloween or for other events. So I was back, months ago, maybe the beginning of the year, at Target at their dollar spot, and I saw they had a whole collection of science type things. They had all these cheap Petri dishes and other little flasks and stuff like that, and so I just snagged those right then and there, even though I know it was going to be nearly 2 years till time to throw this party, but I know as I've looked around at that kind of stuff, it can be really expensive. So at the dollar spot, it was really cheap, so it was worth grabbing with that plan in mind. So a lot of people say, how can you do that? Kids aren't going to want the same thing. They're going to change their minds. Well, I've really not had a lot of problem with that with my own children, and it's not because my children are angels. I'll tell you, they are pretty independent, strong-minded kids. But when we settle on a party theme, sometimes a year in advance, we kind of talk it up throughout the year. Oh, we're going to do this party. And then they always know that there's going to be another party, so that when they see something else they're excited about, they say, well, can we do this next year? Can I have my Transformer party or whatever next year? And we just keep pushing that one off to next year because Mom doesn't want to do it. But if it's something, and I know my children, so I don't ever pick a theme that they're not going to be thrilled about. I don't pick something just because I like it. I try and pick something that I know that they love, that I can get excited about as well, that I can get into. So that usually avoids that problem. Okay, next big tip, shop the house / be a hoarder. I know that sounds horrible, but it really helps if you have a lot of access to things around your home. If you have space for it. I know that's a whole other issue, so if you need to call hoarders, maybe don't listen to this advice, but I think all of us have things in our home every day that we can use to contribute to the vision of our parties that don't cost us a penny. For that example, I pulled out this beautiful party by Mariah from Giggles Galore. She was in attendance at Snap. She also was a finalist in my party contest last year. And I loved her Dick and Jane party. I'd actually kind of designed a party like this in my head, but never gotten the chance to put it together. And she did and put it together so beautifully. And I believe she posted somewhere that she only spent about $50 on this setup, on this party. So, but the way that was possible is that you'll see she's utilized all kinds of toys that were at her home or at her parents' home, old vintage books, fabric, marbles, trucks, just things that they had or that she could easily get from others that had kept those things, and display them beautifully around the party. She also, I believe these are favor bags that doubled as the backdrop, so it made for color, and anytime you can double up, saves a lot of money. So look for toys that have to do with your theme. If you're doing a Lego party or a Thomas party or something, chances are you've got toys around your house that your child loves that you could incorporate into the decor without spending extra money. Look at your furniture, your books, plates, vases, things that you just have. This was my daughter's book-themed book club birthday. She turned 11 and she is a huge bookworm. So I borrowed from some more sophisticated palettes. She's a pretty sophisticated 11-year-old. She likes things pretty and she likes things that are, you know, classy feeling. She didn't need it to be too wild and crazy, but she does love purple, so we added that color into the mix. But this was a super inexpensive party in that I bought some books from the dollar store and tore those apart to make the decorations. And almost everything else you see here we already had on hand. So this is furniture. This dresser was in another room and I brought it down to this kitchen island. These are our books. I was going to style them a little better but ran out of time. So just styled the books. I, obviously purchased food and purchased flowers and some of the paperware. But other than that, this was just stuff that was, I used those purple fans for another party because she's liked purple for a few years now. So, as far as decor goes, that was a pretty big impact without hardly spending any money at all. Shop your home for garbage. We all have garbage, recycling, things that we've used or thrown out. And this worked fantastically well for the robot party I threw for my son a couple of years ago. You can see tin cans made great levels and just gave that really industrial look I was going for. I used old CDs, just flipped them to the back side so you wouldn't see whatever had been on the front side to make this garland. I used to get like the AOL CDs. You probably all thrown those away by now, but there's a lot of CDs or DVDs or computer discs. You copied something and you don't need it anymore, burned things. That worked really well to make this garland. Tin cans, you can use cardboard boxes. There's just lots of stuff. That was the robot party. Okay, this one was another one I was kind of proud of. One of the first times I felt like I shopped the house really well. This was a wild party we threw for my sister-in-law a few years back. Someone else made that beautiful cake, so don't give me credit for that one. But just styling the table, I wanted this, I wanted a lot of earthy things. And I realized one day as I was tripping over this antler that my husband had in the garage that I was so frustrated with. What is he going to do with this thing? He should put it somewhere. I was like, oh, it's the perfect thing to put on the table for the wild party. It just gave that really crazy, wild, rustic look. We had it around the house. The cake is on a platter, which is really a sample of a large square of tile. You could buy these probably individually at the home improvement store. But I had one because we were making plans for a home and they'd given us a sample tile, so it was just hanging around. The other tiles here were from my patio table. The tiles that are on there come out from the frame. So I just pulled all those things and used those as platters and places to set the food. I did purchase the candles in the animal print, but I gave those to the birthday girl, and I had the rocks from other events, river rocks. And I think my mother-in-law had some of the taller candles she had gotten to add to her collection. We also pulled animal print rugs and blankets and anything animal print that my sister-in-laws or any of their friends had, and just kind of threw it all in the room. I had this brown silk from another party, the satin, I should say, that I used as the table covering. So again, almost no money spent on this setup. Other things around your house. Bed sheets can become tablecloths or backdrops. If we had that robot party, that orange sheet, that was a bed sheet. I didn't go buy anything special for that. That was something my sister had given me that we had in the house. So we went with orange. Nice and bright color. You look for unique bowls or baskets or things you might have collected that can add interest to your table. Cardboard boxes can be covered to create height. And think of your home decor items, picture frames, or another big trend you've probably all seen is that you can take a recovered piece of furniture or a bookshelf, and that could be a great place to set up your party display rather than just on a table. So look at your home decor, the things you're proud of that you want to display, may as well make them part of the party. Here's a few sites to check out when you're shopping online. Here's another tip. Again, you have to know in advance what you're doing, but if you're running all over town at the last minute trying to buy stuff, chances are you're going to have to pay higher prices or take what you can find. So the sooner you've planned in advance, the better you can check out deals. One thing I like to do sometimes is shop at Amazon.com and put it in my shopping cart and then watch it for a while and see if the prices go up or down, you know how they do, it'll notify you, the price on this has gone up, price on it's gone down. So then you know when it's gone down a bit, that's the time to grab it and have it for the party if it's a favor you're looking for, or something special for the party. Sometimes you can find great stuff on eBay cheap. Etsy. Etsy's kind of a mixed bag. I've seen some people that charge a lot for their special handmade goods on Etsy, and some people that are almost giving them away. But it's worth a search, especially if you're looking for party printables or you know, some other fun design. If there's something that you're not very good at like designing an invitation or something, there's a lot to choose from on Etsy. You can also search for free printables. There's some great boutique stores now. Some of your favorite party bloggers have all opened shops where you can buy cute stripy straws and fun party accessories. One I've used is, it's called Bake It Pretty, and it's now under the ownership of a fellow Snapette, that's what you call us, Brittany Egbert from One Charming Party owns that one, and I've gotten some great stuff from there. One of the things I found that they have are just a couple dollars for molds of fun party things. I got little brain molds to use for Halloween, or Lego molds, or whatever. You can make chocolate candy Legos or Jello or whatever out of those. So those are fun. Oriental Trader, sometimes great stuff there, sometimes it's just junk. But if you sort through, you can find some great things there. You kind of need to include that in your search. But usually you can get a great deal on shipping if you combine a couple parties. Say you've got a couple parties coming up in the season, maybe buy it all at once so you can get free shipping, or split with a friend. Also want to consider Google Shopping. Sometimes they'll give you a comparison price. Bulk shopping, buy stuff in bulk, and if you don't need it all for the party, you could maybe sell it to other people, or share it with somebody, or use it for presents or whatever. My Party Is Over is a website I wanted to tell you about. Nancy, she's from the website Ada Zebra. She's also was there at Snap, another party girl. But she's started a website where it's kind of like a Craigslist for party supplies. So if you do spend a little money on something and you want to recoup that, you can list it for sale there, or you can look for other people's party goods that they're done with on that site. So it's worth checking out. All right, it's good to have friends. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Honestly, I do lean heavily on friends and connections to make the parties that I throw happen. And you have to be a little bit careful, because you don't want to be that person that's always, will you please help me? I need your help. So I think most of my friends know that I'm willing to do the same for them, and that I do a lot of little things to help people out with their design or their party ideas and stuff. So you want to make sure you're willing to return the favor sometime, or able to help them in some way. Some people are just excited because they know you throw great parties and they want to be a part of it, so they will offer to help. And if they offer, by all means, I would accept their help. Here's a couple quick stories. This was for the fairy party that I threw for my daughter when she turned 3, and I had visions of making adorable toadstool stools for everybody to sit on as they ate their fairy feast. And in my mind, it was going to be spectacular, but I was running out of money and running out of time for the party, and I just wasn't sure how I was going to put these together. And I was at a friend's house, and I saw these stumps. I was like, where did you get those? And can we just borrow them for a little bit and we'll bring them back? And sure enough, they had no problem with us borrowing those. And they added such a great atmosphere. It just felt very authentic to have these stump stools all around the party. This face painting was actually done by our babysitter, who was not that much older than my daughter, that she was doing the face painting on. But she's an artistic girl, and so for just a cheap rate, I could hire her to come and help out at the party and do the face painting and help with some of the pretty stuff. So I've done that. I've used her quite a bit, because that's a lot cheaper than hiring a professional party person, and she gets some good experience, and so it's fun. This was at the spa birthday party, and there was no way that I could, there was about 10 girls, I think. It was a 10-year-old birthday party. There was no way that I could take and do every girl's hair and do their nails and get them in the glamour shots and have the food ready. It was just too much for me. So I called in some friends. I did give them some gift cards later because they worked hard that night. But that's still much, much cheaper than taking all the girls to a salon, or even for pedicures or something, and they got a lot more done and they had a great time. So it was a fun night. I put on here, we can't DIY it all, at least not all at the same time. And that's my problem, is I do feel like I can DIY it all, but realistically you can't do it all at the same time. So you do need help. Alright, so back to the Rapunzel party, the one that was so expensive that you have to be rich to throw it. I'm going to tell you some of the secrets because this was really not an expensive party, and this is why. Let's start up here with the costume. She wore this gorgeous Rapunzel costume and long wig. Well, I happen to be very fortunate to have a mother who's an excellent seamstress, and so this was her creation, and also her gift to my daughter for her birthday was to make this Rapunzel outfit. And that may not always be that may not be realistic for everybody, but let's say you wanted to throw this party and maybe Grandma and Grandpa are asking, what do you need? And you ask them to give a gift to the birthday child that will help at the party, a costume. Back at the camping party, I had my mom make a scouting backpack for my son, so he'd have some place to, put his camping treasures and his gifts as he went on that treasure hunt. Oh, we didn't talk about that yet, did we? We'll get there in a minute. So I try and think in terms, when they ask, well, what should I get them for their birthday? I try and think in terms of something that will help with the overall party and that I know my child will love anyway. All right, so you might see the venue here was not at my house. We went to we have some good family friends who kind of like second, third grandparents to my children. They have a fantastic property, huge, spacious, grassy area with mature trees that kind of have that old foresty feel. They also have, you can kind of see in this picture, they have this train, which didn't have anything to do with Rapunzel, but we've used that for several other events, and we called it the Royal Parade, so that because the kids love to ride on it anyway. So they let us use all of those things. This tent, it might look like we rented an expensive tent, but this was just the shade structure that they have on the back of their property. And they actually had these curtains from another time that they had set it up for a fancier event. So we just kind of piped and draped the curtains around and tied them back to give the effect of something a little more royal, a little more feminine than just a little shade structure. You can see the blue tarp up here. It really wasn't a fancy tent area, but we made it look kind of fancy. You can see some twinkle lights on garland. That was leftovers from wedding receptions from my sister-in-law that my mother-in-law had at her house. So we just grabbed those and borrowed them. The lanterns here, those were left over from my wedding ages ago. They are a little bit worse for the wear, but we've gotten a lot of use out of those. The banner was from I think I got it from Supermom Moments. They had some printables online, so free printables. I recolored them a little bit to go better with my color scheme and changed them up a little bit, but I just printed those and put those together. And you'll see these banners throughout. I had some big signs and banners throughout the party, and that would have been a really expensive thing to have printed, except that we have another friend that has a lot of printing equipment and gives us killer deal whenever we need things printed or t-shirts made or things like that. So I knew that I had him as a resource, which is why I had the banners printed. Otherwise I probably would have made them out of poster board or fabric or something else. I would have done a different option because printing is probably not the cheapest option if you don't have a connection. But learn what resources you have and know who is willing to help with what and use those. Also help on site, again, babysitter, helping with the hair. But I had other friends help with the food and different things like that. A lot of friends that wanted to be involved and help, so I used them. Okay, this is a little bit of a different bit of advice because this may not seem to have a lot to do with the budget, but in my mind, a party should really be about the guests and the guest of honor, and it should meet them where they are in their interests and the things that they love to do, and it really should have some activity component to it. I've seen a lot of beautiful, beautiful parties online, but they're for a 2 or 3-year-old boy, and I don't see any evidence of anything else going on except this gorgeous dessert table with 30 different kinds of sweets and everything color coordinated and laid out perfectly. And I'm sure all the parents are amazed and impressed, but then what do the kids do except turn into sugar monsters? So there's nothing wrong with a beautiful table. I'm all for beauty, but I do think you should focus whenever possible. If you have to choose, if your budget's limited or your time's limited, I always go for what's going to make the party fun and what the guests are going to love. rather than what necessarily is going to blog the best or what I want to see. So here's some ideas about how to make your party into an adventure, and that saves a lot of money because you don't have to go out and rent that bounce house or take them to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever if you've got something exciting going on in your backyard or the field nearby. This was my son's rocket party. He was about 4 at the time. And this was the main event. We did a lot of other cute things. If you go to the tab on my website, I think the rocket party should come up there under boy birthdays, and you can get more details there. We had a cute moon cake and astronaut food and lots of fun things going on. But this was the main event. And we created these rockets beforehand just out of 2-liter bottles, made a nose cone and some fins and just hot glued those on and spray painted them all beforehand because we knew that little boys wouldn't be doing that. But when they came, they got to pick a rocket, decorate it with stickers and tape, and make it their own. And then we went too far. Let's go back. Then we went out to this big field, and you need a big field if you attempt this one because these go high, like 100, maybe 200. I don't know if they go 200 feet, but they go high up in the air, probably more than 100 feet. And so each child got their rocket launched. My husband, you can see, is launching them there. If you're a 4-year-old boy, 5-year-old boy, that's way exciting, right? Watching rockets launch up into the air and having one. Of course, they got a little bit, the nose cones usually got crunched on the way back down, so they didn't all look perfect when they took them home, but they made their own rockets and got to see them fly. So that was a real adventure for them. Here's another quick example. My sister threw this party for her son. It's a night party, and they had a little jousting tournament with their stick horses and their swords. They really got into the adventure of the thing. She made the tunics and the hats and everything. So I know she's really good at finding things inexpensively. So she made it so that they could actually feel like they were there in the medieval times having their jousting tournament. All right, this one, I don't want to tell you the whole story. You can go back on the blog and get it because it'll take a long time to explain it. But this is my daughter's Nancy Drew party. And I hauled all the girls over to an empty house, and they had to solve a Nancy Drew mystery. They had to find all the puzzle pieces, put them together, use the black light to find the hidden message and find the presents that were hidden. And they loved it. Like, they loved it so much that when we were leaving, coming back to our house, they thought that there was a big ugly black truck that pulled out after us, and they're like, oh, it's the bad guy, he's following us, hurry, we've got to get away, we've got to evade him. They were totally into the storyline. Like, I had transported them into a mystery story by doing this, and they absolutely loved it. This was last year's birthday when my son turned 7. We were camping, not just pretending to camp, but out in the middle of nowhere, and we threw together a camping party for him. And treasure hunts have been a huge tradition in my home ever since I was a little girl. I think my parents didn't have a lot of money to buy us presents, so they wanted to make a big production of it rather than, give us stuff they didn't have money for. They would just make it a really big deal to go and find the presents we were getting. And we've come up with so many different kinds of treasure hunts throughout the years. But I personally really love to make the treasure hunts thematic to the party. So since we were out in the forest, this was the time to do kind of a geocaching style GPS treasure hunt. My husband had this inexpensive GPS device, and he and I just went through the woods and found hiding places, and we'd cover them up so they weren't in plain sight, and he'd set a waypoint on his GPS, and then when we had hidden all of the presents, we came back, turned the GPS over to my son, and he went to each waypoint and hunted for his presents. His sisters accompanying him. They had a fantastic time. It was very exciting for them. So you could even do that maybe around your neighborhood or in a big park or something. All right, so here's a few more quick tips. We're just about done here. Food, like I said, can be the real killer sometimes. One tip is you might consider serving pre-served portions of food so that that people don't take too much that they're not going to eat. And it just makes it easier. My son's first birthday party, we had the ABC rainbow cake here, and I did the individual scoops of ice cream and cupcake liners prior to the party, so everybody just got the one scoop of ice cream, and there weren't kids, oh, I need more ice cream, because it wasn't there to dish up. So that saved time and also just made that less food that was necessary. I often, like with the book club birthday, I really think that one was closer to a $50 birthday. It was not very expensive at all, and part of the reason was we did not plan it over a meal. I planned it for, I want to say like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The best times are either kind of late morning, 10 o'clock, or early afternoon, 2 o'clock, somewhere like that, when people aren't necessarily expecting to eat. If you do have a party over a mealtime, I think you got to plan to feed people so they're not hungry or uncomfortable or having to scramble to get food before or after the party. But if you're not right in the middle of a mealtime, then just serve some snacks and serve some cake and just keep the food simple. That will save you a ton of money. Keep the guest list intimate. That's, again, a personal decision. I've read, you've probably all heard about, they say, oh, you can invite the child's age plus one. I don't really stick to that because I found that my younger children tend to have, they're friends with everybody that they see at church and everybody that they see at dance class, and so it's really hard to make them choose friends, and you certainly don't want them to hurt anybody's feelings. So we often have bigger parties when they're little, and as they get older, I make sure that they choose the people that they really want to come. I know that there's the trend to invite everybody in the school class, but 30 kids is a lot to have at a party. It's going to probably dissolve into chaos, and it makes it so you can't do a lot of special details. I like to give really nice favors, something that they'll use again, and you can't do that if you've got 30 people coming to the party. So, you know, we try not to hurt feelings or anything, but just invite those people that they associate with more than at school, that they spend time at each other's houses with, or they see at additional activities during the week or something. So I try and keep the guest list intimate. Minimize licensed products. You probably know this one already, but anytime you buy something that's got that logo on it, it's going to cost more money. And I kind of like to try and steer my children away from licensed parties anyway, maybe the more general version of that licensed thing. But even if it has to be a licensed party, let's say you're doing Sesame Street, there are some really cute Sesame Street items out there. But I would pick just a few of the cutest licensed things and then fill in the rest with bright colored paperware or crepe paper or whatever in those same colors, and you're going to have, the licensed stuff is going to stand out, be more impactful, and you're going to save a lot of money anyway. I think a lot of people just thought if you're going to have a party, you go to the party store and they've got everything from the licensed characters all together on the rack, and they just buy everything that has to do with Transformers or Hello Kitty or whoever it's going to be, and before you know it, you've spent $100 just on, you know, things that are going to be thrown away before the party's over, and you haven't really gotten much of anything. So minimize that. A little advice to myself and everybody else is stick to the best parts of the party, eliminate the fluff. I always come to a crunch time before a party where my vision is always bigger than my capacity to do, so some things have to be eliminated, and it's really hard, and it always is disappointing when I have to X out a few things. But your budget, your time and your money, you have to budget, and so you want to make sure that you've got the best high impact parts of the party covered. If there was some cute little, you know, here's my example. I like labels on food and things on a buffet because a lot of times you can come up with clever words and you can use a really cute design, and there's a lot of free printables out there. But if the children are 3 years old and they can't read, then does it matter if everything is labeled? You know, it might at the end just have to go to the wayside so you have time to do other things. Or, you know, just decide where to spend your money and make sure that the things that are less important aren't getting the bulk of your budget. Big tip, make your own cake. I know that's intimidating, but with cake mixes and things, it can be, there can be some really simple cakes, and they can be high impact. There's a couple examples here. I have a ball cake pan from Wilton, and I've used it for probably a dozen parties at least, because it can be a moon, or it can be a basketball or a golf ball or an earth or all kinds of things. So I've used it tons of times. This one I just baked the cake, put white frosting on it, made little craters in it, and then did a little bit of piping. The rocket, I used a popsicle mold that we had ordered. We also served popsicles, but before we'd made the popsicles, I made a chocolate mold out of it. We just used those melted chocolates and stuck that in the top of the cake, you know, with a big skewer on the end there, so it'd stick into the cake, and that was pretty much the cake. Display-wise, I tried to make a cool stand. I put salt down and then covered it with blue saran wrap so it kind of looked like a space where you're setting the moon. So anyway, that was not a difficult cake to make, and yet it was really high impact and much, much cheaper than going to the grocery store to buy a cake, and, well, much cheaper than that, and much, much cheaper than going to a real cake professional. That doesn't sound very nice, but you know, the cakes you can get at the grocery store are limited. There are a lot of people that make custom cakes that are beautiful, but I believe most of those start at $100 if you want something with a shape to it, and that's just going to cost a lot of money. So if you can make your own, that will save a ton of money. Another thing, I was just going to mention about cakes. If you do kind of a shaped cake like the ball cake and you're doing a cake mix, just make sure you add less oil. You only need like a tablespoon of oil instead of a 1/3 cup or a 1/4 cup like they call for. The more oil in there, the less it's going to hold its shape, and it'll probably fall apart on you. So just one little tidbit there. Alright, so you can also double your party decor as presents. This cake here my sister made was really simple. Just blue frosting. I think that's brown sugar, sand, and some candy shells and some candy seaweed. And then she bought this adorable, I think it's a beluga whale, to put on top. It's a toy, a realistic toy, but she spent a bit of money on that, but it was one that she wanted her son to keep and play with, and it doubled it made a great cake topper. So again, if you can do double duty, then the budget goes a little bit further. I tend not to give my children a lot of presents when we throw a big party, and that's another way to look at it if you're feeling like, oh, we just can't afford to throw a party. If you want to make the fuss of a party, don't get them a lot of presents. Let Grandma and Grandpa get them the nice things if they're willing, or you know their friends are going to be bringing presents. Sometimes you don't always get what you want them to have when the friends bring lots of presents. You can always tell friends not to bring presents and just do something different, but generally people will bring presents to a birthday party. So if they're going to get 10 or 13 presents from friends, they don't need 10 presents from you. You know, it's just overkill. And so I really, when I'm throwing a party like this, I really don't give my kids, I don't spend a lot of money on their presents. If we were not to give a party, I think we would spend more and make sure they got a few nice things. But that, again, is a judgment call. If you're feeling like you've got to cut costs somewhere, you might just think about if they need more things or if they need more attention, and that's kind of where you want to spend your budget. So here's our little, this was the topper I designed for the mints we gave out to the attendees at the panel, and it just says, "Parties don't have to cost a mint to create excitement." And these were in little glassine packages with York chocolate mints, because those are yummy. And everybody likes mints, right? They really don't have to be expensive. And for me, it's just about creating an environment where the birthday child feels special and where the guests feel special and where they are excited and feel like they're lucky to get to be there. And you can do that with just a little bit of imagination. We've got so many resources today on the internet, and I just hope that this will help inspire you a little bit to create a creative party that doesn't break the bank. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope I get to see you at SNAP this year, 2013. Thanks, everybody.